The Vols take down the Razorbacks 34-31 in Neyland Stadium, but it was close, too close. We talked about our defensive play calling being one of the major keys to success, but was it just a key of concern? Oh, we're going to talk about it. Welcome to the Vol Patriot Podcast. I am your host, the Vol Patriot, Patriot of the Volunteer Nation, and my co-host, J-Mello. This podcast is for the people, by the people, specifically Tennessee football, but also college football as a whole. We're going to cover weekly updates, pre-game and post-game reviews, in-game specifics, and of course, hot takes. We will talk about things that most sports podcasts are afraid to discuss. You'll hear it here and only here on the Vol Patriot Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Big Orange, go Vols. Good morning, Vol faithful. Tennessee beats Arkansas, but it's something I like to say, it matters how you win. It matters. But no time to waste, let's get into this game, Jay.
Tennessee needed to come out hot in this game, but instead, Arkansas scores a touchdown on their very first drive in Neyland. Once again, the bye week seems like a disadvantage to Tennessee. Tim Banks wanted to keep his guys 10 yards off the ball the whole time, and the 10 penalties that Tennessee received did not help them maintain any sort of momentum.
Yeah, I totally agree. The penalties were egregious. Here's the thing. Tennessee gets called for holding and some of these things, cool. But there were some calls, right? Like we had a false start early in the first half and the defender jumped off sides and our offensive lineman reacted right in front of the ref and they called a false start. You can see Josh Heupel was pissed off about that. There was missed pass interference calls, right? We're just going to go ahead and lay it out because I don't want to talk about the refs anymore because we're going to talk about some other stuff. But yes, the officiating was egregious. There is no daggum way that Arkansas went 3 quarters with no penalties. You have got to be kidding me.
Yeah, especially in Neyland Stadium. I mean, that is one of the most hostile environments to play a game in. There is no way that they didn't false start at least one time in those 3 quarters. I don't care how disciplined your team is in an environment like that. It's inevitable because it's so loud. It's the number one penalty most visiting teams have is a false start because it's just so hostile. Yeah,
it's a communication thing. For those who don't understand, they're like, wow, maybe they're just that disciplined. Sure, but you gave up, 5-6 sacks in this game, which tells me what? One, you had to be holding because all those penalties, when you finally got them, which there were 2, one was declined, it was holding, and that was in the fourth quarter. Tennessee was getting to Taylen Green. I mean, you could see that the offense was trying to hold the defense back from getting there. So if you know for a fact that your quarterback's starting to get sacked a lot, there's no way you're not trying to jump out of your stance to protect your quarterback. In an environment like that where you can't tell me there wasn't movement on the line. You can't tell me there wasn't more holding calls. You can't tell me there wasn't procedure of some sort, penalties. It had to have happened. It just didn't get called. Now, Tennessee, on the other hand, I saw Tennessee false start a couple of times. They got called for it. All right, I saw Tennessee hold a couple of times. They got called for it. But what you don't see is the calls being evenly distributed. Not saying you have to evenly distribute it, but you have to call it if you're going to call it on one side because you got to believe it's happening on the other side. And I've seen it multiple times. The penalty where Braylon Staley's coming across the middle of the field and he's wide open. If he catches it, I'm not saying he's gone, but he's at least getting 25 yards on that play. Well, the defender's holding on to the guy. No call. I think that drive ends up ending with us getting no points. And, I mean, it's just, this happens, but the moment Tennessee does it, there's a call. So I'm not harking on the referee. They were terrible. I mean, anyone who watched the game can kind of see, there's something's not right. But
listen, I'll harp on the referees. We watched the Alabama-Missouri game. There were egregious calls against Missouri in Alabama's favor. The Florida game, there was a penalty call on both sides, but on Texas A&M's side, it was an offsides call, and then it was a holding call on Florida. They basically just canceled each other out, when in reality, offside should have been called first, and that penalty should have been upheld, because if they had called offsides, the holding wouldn't have occurred. So it happens. Listen, I'm a Gator fan. It happens to Tennessee a lot. I have watched a lot of Tennessee games, especially over the last several years, and it happens way more than I actually thought. For a long time, I would look at the Vol Patriot and be like, I think you are a conspiracy theorist about these penalties. But now that I've watched these games with my own eyes, I can see it just as much as any Volunteer fan. And it really does say something about what is happening in the SEC as far as officiating is concerned. Now, have I looked at the refs outside of the SEC? No, because this is our conference, right? This is what we care about. And frankly, there's no accountability in the SEC for the SEC officials, but there seems to be accountability elsewhere. So that's my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth, but it's a problem across the board. But I will say it does seem to be heavily geared towards Tennessee at times.
Totally agree, Jay. Totally agree. There needs to be accountability across the board when it comes to officiating, specifically in the SEC. We are way too prestigious and historic. And from a conference that means more, we need more. Overall, Jay, I mean, as far as the bye week goes, and like I said before, I honestly think we started off relatively well. I felt like our offense started strong, right? I felt like our defensive players actually did relatively well, okay? But as far as the play calling goes defensively, I think that's what really let us down. I think that's where it kind of felt like maybe the bye week didn't benefit all of us. And I'm specifically talking about Tim Banks. Look, we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but let's talk about some of the stats and some of the key players in this game.
So yeah, Joey Aguilar, again, he did not let y'all down. He continued his 200-plus yard streak. He's started 28 times and has thrown over 200 yards all 28 of those times. Just wow. But as far as...
It makes you wonder where the Aguilar hate came from. Like, the hate he was receiving, and not from the Tennessee fan base, but outside picture, the media... Oh, Joey Aguilar is a turnover king and da-da-da-da, and I don't know. This guy has just changed the narrative.
Right, and it's not to say that he doesn't have turnovers, right? That he hasn't thrown interceptions, because he has. We've seen them. However, there have been times where those interceptions were a direct result of the receiver not catching the ball, not because of how Joey threw it, but simply because they didn't make a play.
Correct.
So I've said it in previous episodes. It begs the question, how many of those interceptions are truly at his hand? With that aside, Joey Aguilar was 16 for 25. He passed for 221 yards, 1 touchdown. He was also your second leading rusher with 59 yards and 5 carries. I mean, you couldn't ask for your quarterback to do much more than that. You know, your offensive line did exactly what they needed to do, and they needed to protect him. They gave up no sack. So Joey performed the way Joey performs.
Yeah, no, Tennessee's offense, they executed exactly as they're supposed to. All right, the offensive line, as I said before, very talented bunch, very physical bunch. They kept Joey Aguilar upright. Sure, the defense got to him a couple of times, but that's after the fact he made a good play down the field. So Joey Aguilar, Joey Swag, whatever you want to call him, he was rock solid for us. Our receivers did really good, and I mean, that's tight ends included. Our running backs did their thing. Let's talk about Deshaun Bishop. I mean, man.
Deshaun Bishop did excellent. He had 14 carries for 146 yards. He really carried the team in rushing yards. Peyton Lewis was 8 carries for 33 yards, but Peyton Lewis had 2 touchdowns to Deshaun Bishop's 1.
Yeah, he came in he came in crucial for us late in that fourth quarter when Deshaun Bishop unfortunately got injured. And I pray that it's something minor because it didn't look good. And this guy was well on his way to 150 plus yards and another touchdown. So I guess it had been 2 touchdowns. You hate to see it happen to a guy like him. Walk on, great story. And I mean, he is literally established himself in this offense.
Absolutely. And, to watch him go down last night was a little heart-wrenching. I said I hope it's just a overextension, something that needs a little rest, a little bit of ice, a little bit of compression, and he's good to go after that. But I guess we'll find out later this week. Your receivers, though, did exceptionally well. Surprisingly enough, fun fact, Chris Brazzell only received once for 5 yards.
Yeah, so that was an interesting stat. I think it's just because Braylon Staley he really had a heck of a game and he was the hot hand. It's not for lack of going to Chris Brazzell. He went to Chris Brazzell at least 3 other times, and I mean 2 of them were for touchdowns. One, like we mentioned earlier, touchdown attempts, I should say. He lost the ball in the sun. That was the second drive, I believe, where we didn't get any points. And then he actually threw it to him later. I don't know if it was the second half. He threw it to him in the corner of the end zone. He had to adjust his body a certain way, and he just didn't complete the catch. That was frustrating. But that's twice he could have had 2 touchdowns and on that alone,
Yeah, they could have been big plays for sure, but Braylon Staley was your standout receiver yesterday. 6 receptions for 109 yards. Miles Ketzelman, he got the ball a lot yesterday as well. 5 receptions for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. Mike Matthews 3 times for 46 yards. So your receivers did great. I mean, again, your offense did what they needed to do. They put points on the board. The O-line protected Joey. Offense was fine. The offense has been fine this whole season for the most part. There have been times where, like you said, Josh Heupel plays a little bit vanilla. But for the most part, your offense does what your offense does.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk a little defense.
So your defensive players that really shined yesterday were Edris Farooq. He had 6 tackles, 3 assists, so for a total of 9. Andre Turrentine, 4 tackles, 7 assists. Colton Hood, 4 tackles.
He made some crucial stops for us. Some good pass deflections in this game. You would have liked to have seen him in a much better coverage, because I think he would have blanketed the wide receivers he was covering. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. Jeremiah T-Lander, Boo Carter, Ty Redmond, Arion Carter, they all had 3 tackles, and then Tyree West had 2. And your guys had a total of 5 sacks.
Yeah, players made plays on the defensive side. And I mean, when you talk about guys like Jordan Ross, all right, Arion Carter, Colton Hood, right, Jackson Moy, Joshua Josephs. Look, we had a freshman out there that I've not seen before, Jaden Perlotti, I think his name was. Dude, number 27, fast as lightning. All right, this dude chased down Taylen Green. He took a beautiful angle, and Taylen Green was like, maybe I'll stay in bounds. Yeah, he got annihilated out of bounds. The guy's a heat seeker, and give him a little experience, and he's going to be a problem, and a good problem for Tennessee, I should say. So defensively, I really felt like, yeah, no one's perfect. There were missed tackles. Sure, there were times where I felt like our linebackers didn't really take on their blocks well and kind of cut off the running lane, but there was few and far between. That wasn't the biggest issue. I felt like defensively, the players played well. So now that leads us to our next point. Let's talk about the play calling. This is what everyone's come here for. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about
it. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help you God. All right. Tennessee has a problem. It's not the offense. It's not the quarterback play. It's not even the wide receivers dropping passes. All right. It's defensive play calling. Tim Banks specifically.
I definitely think Tim Banks' play calling is problematic. Listen, I am not a play call guru. It is not in my wheelhouse, but I have enough knowledge to know when something doesn't look right. And to me, every time there's a third down and Tim Banks has your guys 10 miles off the ball. It doesn't make sense to me because you need to stop them at this third down. And it feels like every single time he does it, he does the same thing and they convert that third down. It happens every time.
Well, I won't say that happens every time, but it does happen at a high rate, and that's really crazy to think about. When you look at a Tim Banks typical defense, you're going to get a high rate of tackles for losses. I think right now we're leading the country for sacks, total sacks, this season. But then here we are giving up big chunk plays, explosive plays down the field, and then we're giving up third down conversions at a crazy clip. I mean, I don't understand why our guys, as you said, are a million miles off the line of scrimmage. Specifically, our corners are 10 yards off the ball. I've only seen that in a prevent defense. And it took me a second to kind of realize, well, that's what Tim Banks is doing. He's lining us up in a prevent defense because anytime your corners are lining up 10 yards off the ball and then they're taking additional steps in the opposite direction of the line of scrimmage, you're trying to keep everything in front of you. Look, I don't think our talent gap is that bad. I think we actually have guys, corners specifically in Colton Hood and Ty Redmond, who can actually cover. Look, bump those guys up to about 5 yards if you feel like you don't want to get beat. Force the wide receivers to change their route. Do something. Don't give them 10 yards to smoke you. All right, guys, here's a couple examples of what I mean by Tim Banks when he lines us up in like a prevent defense, or when I say cover two. Now, when I say cover two, I specifically mean just two deep safeties. Now, in a lot of formations, when you hear people say cover two, they're actually talking about two deep safeties, three linebackers, and then you have like three defensive backs, and of course, four down linemen. Now, you can play with that a little bit, but I'm specifically talking about just a two deep safety. So what the formation really is, so this is the correction, so the proper terminology out there so people understand what I'm saying, is an actual nickel formation. That's what Tim Banks has. He has five defensive backs, two deep safeties, all right? And then you have a nickel-like player, which kind of replaces that linebacker, and he goes into like that hybrid position, but he's really a defensive back. That's Boo Carter, usually. So you have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive backs in the secondary. This is what I'm talking about. Look at the alignment of our defensive backs and how far off the ball they are, okay? I don't agree with this, all right? You got four down linemen here, and then you have the two linebackers. That's a 4-2 setup, and then you have, so it'd be like a 4-2-5 is what we'll call it, 4-2-5. But my issue isn't the formation itself. It's where our cornerbacks are. I mean, they're nowhere near the line of scrimmage. You're literally saying run the ball because you're not gonna throw it over our head. That's all fine and dandy, but I believe our defense is much better than what Tim Banks has been calling. And this is the prevent defense, and it literally prevents nothing. It prevents you from getting off the field. And here's a perfect example of what I mean. And see, I mean, he gets a big gain right off the bat. All right, guys, last example right here. Here we have, we're going to call it a 4-2-5. That's what we've been calling it. All right, it's a nickel formation. But here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive backs in the secondary, and they're as far back as the two safeties. And as you can see, they're almost on an even line here. They're pushed back at the 28-yard line, 10 yards exact off the ball, maybe a little more, but there's no way they're going to be able to come up and help in the run support by any means. This is the frustration. Look in the backfield, and you have Taylen Green, and he has a running back to his left and a running back to his right, okay? If Taylen Green was to hand this ball off, which he will, right, there's potentially 7 guys that can block for this running back, all right, including the 5 offensive linemen, Taylen Green himself, and whichever running back doesn't get it. Or maybe Taylen Green reads the end and says, oh, he's crashing, and then takes it, and this guy can take it to the house. He's just fast as lightning. Where's the secondary? If he makes one secondary miss, about time they get there, it's a house call. So this is why you bring up your safeties. But once again, Tim Banks has us in a prevent, and as we go ahead and run this play, you see he gets a decent yards here. And this, what is this, first, second down? You can't have that right off the bat because now third down is so much easier. Now, fortunate for us, players made plays, and we were able to force a turnover the play after this. So, like I said, I feel like our defensive players made plays despite the bad play calling. So, yeah, guys, that's just a couple of clips of of what I mean by how Tim Banks has us lining up so far off the ball and why it's ineffective, why we're getting beat so much. Those were just the run plays. Of course, there were the pass plays, similar results where the receiver is untouched. He turns around, catches the ball. He's already got the first down, and before anyone's even come up to make a play on him. I want to cover more of that, but that's going to be in a new segment we're going to call Tale of the Tape. So look out for that, guys, a new little wrinkle for the Vol Patriot podcast. So yeah, my biggest issue with Tim Banks right now, obviously, is the play calling as a whole. Not just lining up 10 yards off the ball. I feel like it's counterproductive when like I talked about the nickel formation. Typically, you want to bring your corners up, right? You don't have to jam the wide receivers, but you want to kind of bring them up so they can also help set the edge in the run game. The closer you are to the line of scrimmage, the more you can take on a blocking wide receiver, because that's what usually they do when you're running the ball, all right? And you can kind of force everything back inside to your linebackers and whatnot. Being 10 yards off the ball, that's why the run game looks so good. They hand the ball off. They get solid blocking because, look, guys, it's not like they had 4 wide receivers out on the boundary or whatnot. They had a tight end behind the line of scrimmage, right? And all they were doing was dragging a receiver across the formation, getting our defense to have to respect the fact that it could be a jet sweep. All right, then you have a tight end kick out and seal an edge, and the running back gets the ball. And before anyone can make a play, like a linebacker, right, because he got blocked, the corner is still at least 7 yards away. So he gets at least 5 yards, and their running back is got at least 30 pounds on, our biggest corner. And so he just runs him over, makes him miss, whatever the case. Oh, he's fast. And now he's got 15 yards on the play. Like, guys, Tim Banks should have made an adjustment in the secondary. Right. I feel like there was an adjustment made between the D-line and the linebackers because we started getting to Taylen Green in the second half. And I'm proud of our boys for getting pressure and helping out the secondary because if they didn't get there was a few times they could have burned us. It's really a shame because coming off the Mississippi State game, I felt really confident that he started to realize, hey, look, I don't have Jermod McCoy out there. I don't have Ricky Gibson out there. I can't run straight man across, okay? But I also can't be 10 yards off the ball because I got to help the run game. And we got to kind of disrupt these receivers from getting all these yards, all right? Like I said, he's running this cover 2, and he's dropping the guy, our corners back. So it turns into really a prevent defense, and you're just giving up everything in front of you. At that rate, you might as well just turn and hit a quick at 8, quick at 9, which is just a boundary throw to the wide receiver. And he goes for 5-10 yards every play until you force that corner to come up, which never really happens. It happened a couple of times, and all of a sudden we were to get some stops. But majority of the time for these big third down plays, right, our guys are 10 yards off the ball. And as I was telling Jay, when you run a prevent defense, the only thing you prevent is your defense getting off the field. And they ate us up, especially in the fourth quarter when we needed to stop. We ran a lot of prevent defense. We ran a lot of 10 yards off the ball. We ran a lot of weird zone plays, right? We didn't cover the middle of the field well, right? If you're going to have your linebackers blitz, at least have one stay back. We sent both of them. Taylen Green's too good for that. He hits us over the middle, all right? First down. Arkansas was able to climb back into this game specifically because of bad play calling on the defensive side of the field. Tim Banks really let us down. I was extremely livid because I'm calling out what the defensive play we should probably be running. Why are we so far off the ball? What they're probably up. There they go. First down. Guys, I'm going to tell you this as what I think has to happen going forward. I think let this year play out as it's going to play out. Tim Banks makes the adjustment. He doesn't make the adjustment, whatever. Tim Banks has got to go. I'm saying it right now. Tim Banks has to go because as long as he's been there, he's not adjusted his defense. All right. He's not adjusted his defense. He's not helped our guys and put our guys in a position to be successful. When you don't have those star corners on the side that can just line up at any position and make plays, right? You got to make an adjustment. And he doesn't do that. And I would never suggest you put your star corners 10 yards off the ball anyway. I want those guys as close as possible to where they can read the quarterback, read what the wide receiver's doing, kind of throw him off his route, and then I like to have safety coverage over the top. So that way no one's getting beat deep. I also like our linebackers maybe playing a little, maybe you blitz, maybe you drop back and confuse the quarterback. Too many times are we clearing the center of the field, right? We're not covering the center of the field, or we're actually getting too far back. I've seen that where our linebackers are dropping like 12 yards back, and I'm going, what are you doing? So that's something that's got to be cleaned up if we're going to be a threat in the SEC, because at this point, I don't know how we're going to go into Tuscaloosa with that sort of play calling and get a W. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, go Big Orange, go Vols.